I did a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon SoulSilver using only Pokemon with a base stat total of less than 400. We're talking about the absolute weakest of the weak. The splinter in your armpit while reaching down to the very bottom of the barrel type Pokemon. Losers, in other words. In SoulSilver's regional Pokedex, there's 9 accessible fully evolved Pokemon that fit the bill, and since this is a Nuzlocke, if any of them faint in battle, they're dead forever. So I've got to be extremely careful if I want to win this challenge. My first encounter is a Weedle named May. Whoops, there's supposed to be an E there, I'll fix that in a sec. The young May will be our team's leader, and though he lacks experience, he's got a lot of potential in that squishy baby boy body. We also recruit Peppers, the happy-go-lucky ladybot, and Andrews, the mysterious unknown. I was hoping the latter's hidden power would be one of the 3 types super effective to Falkner's birds, but it's dragon, and off of an atrocious special attack stat, made even atrociouser by a careful nature, we're gonna need to heavily rely on the fully evolved Mr. May to win our first gym badge. Fortunately, May's new powerful stingers are perfect for smashing rocks and deflating footballs. Against Falkner's lead Pidgey, 1 rock smash is enough to bring the fletchling below 50%. We're hit by a sand attack in return, so I switch through Peppers to shake off the accuracy drop. We do eat a tackle as May comes back in, but 6 HP and some light CTE is a small price to pay to ensure that we don't miss our attacks against the first Johto Gym Leader's fearsome ace Pidgeotto. We outspeed the Italian Stallion to hit another rock smash, which causes a defense drop, but Falkner claps back with a gust that crits and immediately puts my team back against the wall. So now if we want to get out of this, I'm gonna need to take some risks. Peppers uses her phenomenal special defense to come in and shrug off a super effective gust. Pidgeotto goes for a roost as my Ladybird connects with a near coin flip supersonic. Clutch as that may be, it doesn't matter unless our foe hits himself in confusion, and sadly, he does not. Not on the turn we set up Light Screen, not on the turn we set up Reflect, and not on the turn we do pitiful damage with 5 hits from Comet Punch. Despite Pepper's best efforts, Pidgeotto has brought her down into the red, and we need to switch out. As Andrews the Unknown comes in, Pidgeotto gets confused for a 4th time, and breaks through yet again to land a critical hit tackle that bypasses Reflect. The luck has really not been on our side here. Prior to the start of the battle, I made sure to use up all of Andrew's hidden power PP so that they're forced to use Struggle, which lets us take advantage of our much better physical attack stat and Pidgeotto's lower defense. Unfortunately, Struggle also comes with some nasty recoil, bringing Andrews down to just 5 HP and spelling certain doom for our little living letter. So, Pidgeotto rips a tackle, but Andrews survives with 1 HP. And so with a final act of valor, a Struggle gets the KO. Andrews has clinched a victory and saved the run at the cost of their very own life. Man, to think that we were just a single critical hit away from a deathless victory. It feels unfair because it is. Life is ruthless and cruel, especially when you're at the bottom of the food chain. And with Andrews gone, we're down to a 2-man offense for the quickly upon us second gym battle against Bugsy. His lead Scyther is a monster, and with horrendous damage options from both May and Peppers, my only hope is that this arthropod is lactose intolerant. Scyther immediately rips a Technician quick attack into our defensively challenged team captain before we retaliate with a flash. Yeah, I'm not proud of it, but this is our only hope. When you're born a loser, sometimes you gotta play dirty. With Roost, we can attempt to get back to full HP, but since Scyther has both Focus Energy and Leer, this is hardly a safe strategy. Nevertheless, we're able to bring our foe down to -6 accuracy, such that all her attacks only have a 33% chance of connecting. And from there, we start plugging away with Twin Needle, a resisted move that doesn't do much damage, but has a very good chance of poisoning, which happens on just our second turn of offense. And with that, the damage steadily racks up. Each turn, I hold my breath, praying that May dodges another attack from Scyther, or at the very least a devastating critical hit. Perhaps it's Andrew's lingering spirit watching over us, or it's just RNGesus displaying an uncharacteristic moment of grace. But one way or the other, May manages to dodge every attack and critical hit he needs to win the matchup and ensure our victory. With Scyther defeated, it's trivial to take out Metapod and Kakuna, and while we do, you should consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It's a really easy way to support me for free, and even if you think you're already subscribed, there's a good chance you aren't. So with that, we've obtained the second gym badge and made it to the bustling metropolis of Goldenrod City. And from here, we can catch 2 new teammates. First is a trip to the national park where I participate in a bug catching contest, the only place to catch a Caterpie in SoulSilver. Ours is named Duggar, and since we catch her at level 15, it does mean that she misses out on sleep powder, easily Butterfree's greatest asset thanks to her compound eyes ability boosting its accuracy to 97.5%. And speaking of compound eyes, did you know that it also increases the chances of a wild Pokemon having a held item? Exhibit A, Henry the brave little Ditto is holding a... Wait a minute, are those the latest model of the Raycon's everyday earbuds with 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity? Well, what are the odds? This video just so happens to be sponsored by Raycon. Wow. Raycon's everyday earbuds offer premium audio wherever you go. Their ergonomic design means they fit comfortably in my ears. Their quick charge function means that just 10 minutes of charging yields 90 minutes of battery, and starting at just half the price of other premium audio brands, you don't need to break the bank to get them. The start of the new year is a great time to work on resolutions. Is one of your resolutions to get better at ad segues? I don't know, is one of yours to be less critical? One of my resolutions is to exercise more and get back into running at a serious level, which is a lot easier when I'm listening to podcasts with my everyday earbuds. I never run without them. The everyday earbuds come in a variety of colors to match your style, and you can get a protective case cover with wireless charging capabilities for even more personalization. So if you want to get a pair for yourself, you can go to buyraycon.com/Flygon to get 15% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get 15% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/Flygon. Thanks so much to Raycon for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. Okay, full disclosure, Henry the Ditto wasn't holding a pair of Raycon's everyday earbuds. I lied to you. It was really a quick powder, which is an item that doubles Ditto's speed, meaning that Henry will almost certainly be able to transform into their enemy before getting attacked. So that might maybe be useful, I guess. Anyways, next up is the fight against Whitney, and at this point, I've had to fight Whitney with suboptimal teams enough times to discover that Peppers, now a Ladian, is a surprisingly solid answer to her 2 normal types. Against Clefairy, Peppers can use Swords Dance to boost her pitiful attack stat to something resembling that of a mid-tier sweeper. Normally, this requires gambling with Metronome, but funny enough, this time Whitney opts to use Mimic to copy our Swords Dance and then boost her own attack stat. Sadly, her greed prevents Clefairy from getting an attack off before we take her out with a +6 Drain Punch. A level up ensures that Peppers can now outspeed Whitney's Miltank, who's far too bulky to go down to a single Drain Punch. This means that she can retaliate with a rollout, but thanks to Peppers' lax nature boosting her defense stat, we're actually safe to even a critical hit, meaning that victory is, and always was, ours. The fall of Whitney's prized heifer marks the end of Johto's tumultuous early game, making way for an often easy breezy beautiful cover girl mid-game, and that is mostly the case here. West of Eckertech City, I recruit Gonzalez the Jolly Farfetch'd, who satisfies the detailed requirements needed to be a safe answer to Morty's ghost types. But sarcasm aside, Gonzalez is a welcome addition to the team. It's nice to have a Pokemon that isn't a bug type and can, do something. And so can our next encounter on Wenu the Corsola, a rare Pokemon that fits our definition of loser while still managing to have fairly respectable bulk. Kinda. Against Chuck, we're in luck because our duck hits like a truck. After a Swords Dance, a single Aerial Ace takes out Primeape and Poliwrath. Okay, well, it doesn't one-shot Poliwrath, but since he just goes for a Hypnosis, which we came prepared for by equipping a Chesto Berry, we can take the KO on the following turn for an easy victory. Price, technically the 7th gym leader, but with a lower level cap, my next target, is usually equally as easy as Chuck and Morty, though I have struggled against him recently. So obviously, I wasn't gonna underestimate him again. I'd have to be an idiot to make the same mistake twice. Price leads with Seal, and I lead with Gonzalez, who uses 2 Aerial Aces to take an easy KO. Our flying typing baits in Dewgong second, so I switch to Onwenu, who shrugs off Dewgong's ice type attacks. She can also fire off super effective Ancient ancient powers, though I do need to be a tad careful since we only have 5 PP and Dewgong knows rest. Ultimately, with a bit of patience, I'm able to take out Dewgong with Onwenu at nearly full HP. This just leaves Piloswine, and expecting him to set up Hail on turn 1, I stay in. But instead, Price goes for a Mud Bomb, which does quite a bit of damage before Onwenu retaliates with a Surf. That too does great damage, but suddenly I've found myself in a pretty tough spot. We don't outspeed, Onwenu doesn't survive another Mud Bomb, and none of my other Pokemon hit Piloswine particularly hard. Originally, the plan was to use switches between Onwenu and Duggar to stall Piloswine out of Blizzard and Ice Fang PP, though the damage from Mud Bomb now makes that impossible, and even without it, Onwenu appears to take far too much damage from Piloswine's attacks for that to ever have been a feasible strategy. I messed up, and now we're in some serious trouble. Peppers can come in for free on another Mud Bomb, and then on the following turn, she hits Piloswine with a super effective Drain Punch for maybe 20%. At the very least, an Ice Fang doesn't crit, so Pepper's life is spared, but I'm still in some serious trouble. Even if I wanted to sacrifice Peppers to get off another Drain Punch, it wouldn't help much, since another one would drop Piloswine into the red, Price would heal back to full HP, and then we would be screwed. If I want to win this fight, I need to figure out a way to KO Piloswine in one shot. Unfortunately, he's got about 35% of his HP left, meaning that none of my Pokemon, except for Onwenu obviously, have a way to get that KO. At least right now. See, May has the ability Swarm, which gives his Bug-type moves a 50% boost when he's below a third of his HP. So if I can trigger Swarm, Twin Needle will be enough to get the KO and win us the battle. The issue is that that's pretty hard to do and risks a ton of RNG, whether it's critical hits or freezes. Piloswine's first Blizzard doesn't even do 50% to May. So on the next turn, I decide to pivot strategies and bring in Henry. An Ice Fang hits hard on the switch, but then we can use Transform to survive Piloswine's second Ice Fang. So now, if Henry wins the speed tie and connects with Blizzard, we should be able to take this KO. It is a big risk, but I have faith that Henry will rise to the occasion. Alright, well, back to the Swarm play. By bringing in Onwenu, I can bait Mud Bomb, which does enough damage to May for him to be sitting below 33%. Frustratingly, though, he has an Oran Berry, which brings him out of Swarm range, meaning I need to make one last risky play. With Roost, May gains back just enough HP to survive an Ice Fang in the red, which means we've done it. May now fires off a boosted Twin Needle, knocking out Price's final poke. How did that not kill? Seemingly one hit point was the difference between life and death for May. Now our team is captainless and Piloswine remains very much alive. My only chance is to bring in Onwenu. Since Price uses a Hyper Potion, I too can heal with Recover, and by then proceeding to spam Recover, I can stall Piloswine out of his remaining Mud Bomb PP. A strategy that, with hindsight, I should have implemented from the get-go, regardless of how many critical hits it may be risking. Once the stalling is over, Onwenu uses 2 Surfs to finally get the KO and win what turned out to be a devastating battle. Our roster is down to 4 teammates as we take on Jasmine, who is thankfully a total breeze. Peppers can one-shot her 2 Magnemities with a Drain Punch, and Onwenu gets the KO on Steelix with a Choice Spec Surf. Then, after making quick work of Team Rocket and Goldenrod City, it's time to rebuild our broken team with the final 2 pre-league encounters, both absolutely crucial in their own way. The first is Stevenson the Delibird. Even with an adamant nature, his IVs are good enough for him to be a solid check against Lance's 3 Dragonites if we manage to get there. Second is Tavai the Smeargle, whose signature move Sketch lets him learn any move in the game. That unlimited potential is grossly hindered by truly terrible stats, but even so, he'll have his role to play once we get to the Pokemon League. Before that is the fight against the final gym leader Claire, whose scary ace Kingdra is betrayed by her terrible lead Gyarados. A pitiful moveset makes her fairly easy to set up against, and that's made even easier now that Duggar has Sleep Powder from the move relearner, though here it doesn't really do anything, since Gyarados immediately wakes up on the switch to Peppers. Regardless, she can set up a few Swords Dances and then baton pass to Gonzalez, who sweeps through Claire's team with Return. Even Kingdra goes down in one fell swoop. Yikes, so I guess Gonzalez doesn't have max friendship quite yet, huh? Well, never punished, but that's a little hurtful. I thought we were best buds, Gonzo. With the Elite Four on the horizon, it's time to start teaching Tavai some moves, which can be a fairly difficult ordeal since it requires finding a Pokemon that knows the move you want to learn and then triggering that move into being used. First, I sketch Recover from a Staryu on Route 47 and Spite from a Ghastly in Sprout Tower. Then I fight School Kid Chad on Route 38, who has a Mr. Mime that knows Encore. Getting him to use the move is a bit of a toss-up, but with some patience, we are successful. Those 3 moves aren't actually useful for the Elite Four, though. They're all just so that I can safely sketch Nasty Plot from Ace Trainer Lois's Ninetales at the Lake of Rage. Let me explain why. In addition to Nasty Plot, Lois's Ninetales also knows the priority move Quick Attack, meaning that if she happens to use it on the turn that I go for sketch, I'll sketch Quick Attack instead of Nasty Plot. And since Lois can't be rematched, I only have one shot. So Encore is used to lock Ninetales into Nasty Plot in order to prevent a rogue Quick Attack. Spite and Recover would have been used had we encored her into Quick Attack, which thankfully we just didn't. Okay, next is easily the most annoying move to sketch, but it's also one of the best. Spore. And the reason it's so annoying is that it can only be found on Paris at level 17 or higher, which can only be found in the bug catching contest. Paris ranged from level 10 to level 17 with a 10% encounter rate, so this does take forever, but eventually we successfully sketch the move. Last then is Baton Pass from a level 11 or higher Apom found in a honey tree, and Agility from a Girafarage on Route 43. Tavai's moveset is now complete, and after defeating the Kimono Girls in Ecrotech City, a feat made significantly easier by Jolteon opting for Double Team over Thunderbolt, we've finally made it to the Pokemon League. Here's my team all leveled up to level 47 to match the level of Karen's Ace Houndoom. These teams are ridiculously strong, and in order to make it through the Elite Four, we're gonna need to execute some of the dirtiest strategies I've ever employed. But with our team possessing the collective strength of a bald chihuahua in the blistering cold, I've got no other choice. So let's do this. Will is first for the Elite Four, and sadly, Duggar is just a little too weak for a Shadow Ball sweep, even with the potential boost from a held choice specs. So instead, I'm banking on some good sleep luck. After lulling Will's lead Xatu into a nice slumber, we rip a Shadow Ball for 80%. Though frustratingly, our foe gets an early wake up and fires off a Psychic that triggers a special defense drop. Pretty annoying. I was hoping for a Confuse Ray, which would have been reversed with our held Person Berry. For now, though, it's fine, since a second Shadow Ball gets the KO. Jinx comes in next, and she gets killed by a single Bug Buzz. But third is Will's second Xatu, and this one has the ability Early Bird, so I have to switch out. The frustrating thing about that special defense drop from Psychic is that Duggar no longer baits a guaranteed Aerial Ace, since she now also dies to another Psychic. This makes the switch to Stevenson risky because a critical hit Psychic will kill him. Thankfully though, no critical hit comes out, and he's free to chain Ice Beam KOs on Xatu and Exeggutor, leaving Will with just his Slowbro. Unfortunately, we're not out of the woods quite yet, as a switch to Tavai has him eating a nasty Psychic. Spore on the next turn means we're gambling with some more sleep luck as Tavai proceeds to set up a nasty plot. Another one-turn sleep means that Slowbro fires off a second Psychic, but without the critical hit, our Beagle lives with 4 HP. Enough to put Slowbro back to sleep with another Spore, and then Baton Pass out to Duggar. We mercifully get another turn of sleep here, so Duggar doesn't have to dodge another critical hit before taking the final KO of the fight. That was easily one of the riskiest Will matchups I've ever had, and the risks are nowhere near over. Next up is Koga, who leads with Ariados as I lead with Gonzalez. Immediately, I take a risk by setting up a Swords Dance, letting Ariados retaliate with a Poison Jab that poisons. Not a problem for now, since Aerial Ace KOs the Spider and brings in Fortress, but we've got a natural gift with his name on it. A held Akaberry grants Gonzalez a 60 base power Fire-type move that cleanly KOs Koga's second Pokemon. But now's the main event, the Minimizing Muck. All he's got as an attacking move is Gunk Shot, so Onwenu proves to be the perfect counter. The idea here is to stall out Muck's 5 Gunk Shot PP with Protect and Recover, while also shrugging off Toxics with Refresh. Once Muck is just forced into using Minimize, I can switch to Tavai, set up a few nasty plots as well as a single agility, and then baton pass the boost to Duggar, whose goal is to connect with a Shadow Ball before Muck runs out of Minimize PP and starts using Struggle, which she does instantly. With the boost to her speed and special attack, Duggar's also free to get quick KOs on Crobat and Venomoth, winning us the second battle of the Elite Four. Third is Bruno, and well, look, there's really not a whole lot that this team can do other than what I've already done. Here, Gonzalez sets up with a Swords Dance against Hitmontop, and then Aerial Aces kill all of Bruno's Pokemon, with the exception of Onix, who goes down to a quad-effective Grass-type Natural Gift. That means that last is Karen, who proves just a bit more resistance than Bruno. I'm again free to set up with Gonzalez against Umbreon, who mostly wastes time going for Double Team before falling to a few Aerial Aces. But Gengar comes in second, and Gonzalez doesn't outspeed, though fortunately, Karen's Gengar has a very weird, easily stallable moveset. Focus Blast is her only way to deal damage to normal types, which Pepper happens to quad resist. So a few switches between her and Tavai results in a neutered Gengar, meaning Peppers can safely set up an agility and baton pass to Gonzalez, who now resets up with Swords Dance and then takes the KO on Gengar along with the rest of Karen's kinda dark type team. Which means that we've made it to the fight against the Pokemon League champion, Lance. This battle is brutal, and very rarely can it be won without multiple deaths. Unfortunately, if I have any hopes of taking on the challenges beyond the Indigo Plateau, additional death is not something I can afford. Not after what happened against Bryce. I've got one shot at a deathless victory of Lance, and I owe it to my team to try and pull it off. The battle begins with Gyarados and Tavai taking the field. I train my pup to just barely outspeed Lance's lead so that we can put him to sleep on turn 1. Let's hope things go a bit better than against Will. I start with a nasty plot as Gyarados generously takes a second turn of sleep. Then it's nasty plot number 2, but Gyarados wakes up and fires off a waterfall. As Tavai's HP bar drops, I pray that it stops before 0. And it does. We dodge the critical hit. Another Spore puts Gyarados back to sleep, and then we go for our final turn of setup with agility. Gyarados again stays asleep, meaning that Tavai is safe, but we still need to survive one more turn in order to baton pass the boost to Duggar. A critical hit from Waterfall here, and it's all over. But Gyarados stays asleep! Duggar has made it in completely safe, meaning it's now time to reveal our secret weapon, a 61 base power HP Rock, which at +4 special attack with a held Heartstone is enough to start ripping through Lance's featherless birds. Gyarados dead. Aerodactyl outsped thanks to the agility speed boost and dead. Charizard dead twice over. Even Lance's 2 level 49 Dragonites are guaranteed kills thanks to their naive natures. But Lance's Ace Dragonite, the one at level 50, he's a sassy pants, and that plus special defense nature means that he's got a pretty good shot at surviving. In fact, Duggar only kills 25% of the time, whereas an Outrage kills us 100% of the time. So I start with the Sleep Powder to even the odds. Now, with a chance for Dragonite to just remain asleep, Duggar's chance of survival is this. But forget about the odds. What it really comes down to is how much Duggar wants to live. How much does she want to become champion? How much does she want to win this run? Hidden Power comes out. And we get the one-hit KO, completing our deathless sweep of Lance with a Butterfree and earning the losers a well-deserved spot in the Hall of Fame. But of course, their journey isn't over. In order for these Jotonian losers to be respected in the eyes of the only people who matter, strangers on the internet, they have to defeat the 8 gym leaders of Kanto and Trainer Red on top of Mount Silver. The first gym leader, Fuchsia City's Janine, is barely a passing devastating thought. With an assist from Tavai, Stevenson ice beams his way through her entire team. But the second gym leader in Vermilion City, Lieutenant Surge, is a bit of an issue given that 5 of my teammates are weak to electric type attacks and no one can learn Earthquake. Well, actually, Tavai can learn Earthquake, which is kind of funny to think about, but obviously we're not beating this team with Earthquakes from a Corsola, who has Hustle, by the way. Forgot to complain about that since it doesn't really matter. Anyways, to beat Lieutenant Surge, we're gonna need to call in some backup and get a few new teammates. The first is Baker the Spinda, who I catch in Sprout Tower by playing some Hoenn tunes on a very real Wednesday. Then our final 2 teammates are both swarm encounters, Gibson the Cricketot from Viridian Forest and Hooper the Mawile from Route 9. These guys don't give me an electric type resistance, but at least they all take neutral damage. As the battle against Lieutenant Surge begins though, I lead with Gonzalez. By pre-poisoning him, I can boost his Fachade to 140 base power, which is enough to one-shot Surge's Raichu as well as his 2 Electrodes, who we outspeed with the help of a Choice Scarf. Fachade does not one-shot Electabuzz though, so here's where I gotta switch out to Tavai. After eating a Shockwave, he now baits a Low Kick because for some reason he weighs like 130 pounds. No shade, I just would not have guessed that. But Low Kick means that Peppers can come in basically for free. Our Heldwakan Berry ensures that she's safe to go for a dig, which does just about 50%, though Electabuzz's Citrus Berry prevents us from getting the KO with another. So, after shrugging off a Shockwave, I make the switch to Baker. She's not the bulkiest of panda bears, but with a plethora of attack EVs, another dig should be enough to get the KO from this range. All she's gotta do is tank a second Shockwave. Alright, fine. With the damage from Pepper's dig, another Fachade from Gonzalez kills Electabuzz, so that just leaves Magneton. I made sure to train Gibson the Cricketoon, who happens to be the only Pokemon from Sinnoh with less than 400 BST, to be bulky enough to tank a few hits from Magneton, letting her get off a Perish Song, which all but seals their fate. It's ultimately Hooper who's on the field as Magneton finally falls, and we earn the 10th gym badge of the run. The next 4 gym fights are all much more simple. Despite the level cap order, I tackle Erica next, using an Ice Beam sweep from Stevenson to get the Giga Drain TM, which Duggar can then use to fully sweep Brock's rock types and Misty's water types. Gibson clears through Sabrina's 3 Pokemon, only risking a single psychic critical hit from Alakazam to get the job done. It's amazing what Cricketoon can do when you have a complete disregard for her life. Onwenu then Surf sweeps Blaine, so that just leaves the 16th and final gym leader, Blue. As usual with this cocky schmuck, knowing which of his powerful Pokemon gets baited in when is the key to victory. His first Pokemon is Exeggutor, who we instantly obliterate with a Bug Buzz from Duggar. That brings in Arcanine second, so after putting him to sleep with a sleep powder, I switch to Onwenu. She comes in for free, but Arcanine does wake up to fire off a Dragon Pulse before we can land a Surf, which doesn't KO, but does do enough to trigger a heal, letting us get back to full HP with a Recover as well. A few turns later, Arcanine falls, with Onwenu at basically full HP thanks to Blue opting for what appears to have been a negative priority roar. Machamp takes the field third, so I switch to Peppers on a dynamic punch. This then baits Stone Edge, which almost never kills Tavai even with a critical hit. Prior to this fight, I made sure to hunt down Pokemaniac Morgan on the SS Aqua, whose Rhyhorn knows Horn Drill, which we sketched and can now use to one-shot Blue's Machamp, since his no guard ability means that we can't miss. Next is Rhydon though, and this is the one scary turn. I need to bring Duggar back in, which is safe most of the time since Tavai can put Rhydon to sleep with Spore, and he's baiting a random move between Earthquake, Stone Edge, and Mega Horn. However, if Rhydon immediately wakes up and opts for Stone Edge, Duggar is dead. It's a huge risk, but one I have to make. So, Duggar comes in, Nah, I'm just kidding, he has a focus sash. Sucks to lose the only one in the game, though. Unfortunately, Giga Drain isn't a guaranteed one-shot here, so there is a chance that this doesn't go well, but I'm not gonna bait you again. Even though we don't actually get the one-shot, I made sure to put Rhydon back to sleep, and since he manages to stay asleep, Duggar lives and gets the KO after a few turns of healing. So 5th is Gyarados, who we again immediately clonk out with another sleep powder. This grants a free switch to Hooper, who intimidates Gyarados and lands a Fake Tears to drop his special defense before we bring in Onwenu. Since Gyarados managed to stay asleep for this entire process, he just now wakes up and goes for a Dragon Dance before a single Power Gem gets the clean KO. Last is Pidgeot, but he's got nothing for our hardened warrior, who with 2 more Power Gems adds another entry to our impressive kill list. Blue's been defeated, and our last stop is the peak of Mount Silver. Unfortunately, to get there, I need the HM for Rock Climb, which none of my Pokemon can learn. Shockingly few Pokemon can learn it, actually, which I think is pretty stupid. The result is that I need to use one of my 6 party slots for a Pokemon that can, leaving me with just 5 Pokemon to take on the final boss of the game. Technically, Smeargle can learn it via Sketch, but I'd need to find a Pokemon that already knows it, which as far as I know doesn't actually exist anywhere in SoulSilver. But let's say I hopped onto a Wi-Fi battle with Uncle Jim Tendo and sketched Rock Climb from one of his Pokemon. Yes, I know that Sketch doesn't work like that, shut up. I won't actually be using Tavai in battle. He's effectively an HM mule, but this way at least he gets to be there to cheer on his 5 other teammates. So for one last time, my team of losers prepares for battle. Red leads with his Pikachu, and I lead with Duggar, the indisputable late-game MVP. And if you need another reason, here he cleanly one-shots Pikachu with a Bug Buzz to bring the fight to an even 5v5. This baits in Charizard, so after lulling our enemy to sleep, as we so often do, I bring in Onwenu. Sadly, she still gets nailed by an Air Slash, which does solid damage, as does the Dragon Pulse that comes out next, but with a held Citrus Berry, she gets back into the green before taking the Oko with a Power Gem. Next is Venusaur, so I switch to Hooper on a resisted Giga Drain. Sleep Powder makes this matchup a bit annoying, but with Leftovers Recovery, Hooper manages to stay pretty healthy as we attempt to get off a Fake Tears. Or rather, she would if Venusaur didn't immediately rip a Frenzy Plant for nearly 50%. Fortunately, Hooper wakes up and hits a Fake Tears, so as Venusaur is forced to recharge, we can bring him down to -4 special defense. Then I stay in and let Hooper fall back asleep. The Leftovers Recovery has brought us back to 80-ish%, and now that we're not risking a sleep on the switch, I swap to Duggar on another Frenzy Plant that misses. Would have been really interested to see how much damage that did, but now a single Psychic is enough to KO Venusaur and bring in Lapra. I put him to sleep and then switch to Onwenu, who this time does get to come in for free. On the next turn, though, Lapra wakes up and hits a Brine as I go for Power Gem. It seems I didn't learn my lesson from the fight against Price. Now that Onwenu's below 50%, the power of Brine is doubled and a second one will kill her. The correct play was to recover, but I got greedy and now I need to risk Duggar's life. She comes in on a Brine, which does a solid chunk of damage before I put Lapra to sleep with another Sleep Powder. On the following turn, I go for Giga Drain, bringing Lapra down into the yellow and Duggar closer to full HP, as our foe mercifully stays asleep, meaning that with a Bug Buzz, Duggar takes her 3rd KO of the match. Snorlax is Red's penultimate Pokemon, and as usual, we start with a Sleep Powder. Then it's a switch to Hooper for a Sleep Off. Snorlax wakes up first, but does very little damage with any of his attacks, so it isn't long until Hooper wakes up, drops Snorlax's special defense with Fake Tears, and does some chip damage with Iron Head. Then it's off to Onwenu, reasoning that I can use Snorlax's nerfed attack stat to safely recover up to full HP, so that we can better deal with Red's remaining Blastoise. Unfortunately, Onwenu is actually slower than Snorlax, and at the perfect moment, he connects with a critical hit crunch, killing our plucky pink coral in the 11th hour. It's a tough death to stomach, and that feeling worsens when I think about the Blastoise that still remains. Duggar can kill Snorlax with a Bug Buzz, but I fear that more of our teammates will join Onwenu before the battle is over. As usual, I put Blastoise to sleep with a sleep powder, though this time, instead of switching, I stay in to fire off a silver powder boosted Bug Buzz for some great damage as Blastoise stays asleep for a second turn. If Duggar can do just a bit more damage here, Gonzalez should be able to finish him off with a Silk Scarf boosted return. So I have Duggar stay in and fire off another Bug Buzz. Which crits! Duggar has taken matters into her own tiny paws and landed her 5th KO of the fight to win our losers not just the battle against Red, but the entire run. If there's a lesson to be learned from this playthrough, it's to never underestimate the little guy. Well, not really. The actual lesson is that near perfectly accurate sleep is busted, as is Swords Dance, Baton Pass, and setup in general. But you still shouldn't underestimate the little guy, because you never know when you'll need to, fit in a really small space or something. As always, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Or don't, I don't know. But I do know that you should follow me on Twitch to keep up with streams of my future ROM hack challenges. We are so close to the Run and Bun Elite 4, victory is within our reach. Stay tuned for more Nuzlocke videos, and until then, remember to always, always, always play around the critical hit.